Hi guys, it's Cornish Kayak Angler here. In my last video, I ran through how I fitted the Lowrance Elite FS fish finder to my Hobie Outback Kayak. And in that video, I ran through how to fit the Lowrance HDI 83200 transducer to the Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield found on this kayak. And that's a transducer which runs chirp sonar and downscan imaging. Now, the Lowrance Elite FS, it can also come with the option of having the larger Active Imaging 3-in-1 transducer. So not only does this run chirp sonar and downscan imaging, it also has side imaging as well, or side scan. So this is where the transducer will read either side of the kayak so that you can visually see what's beside you and out from the sides of the kayak. Now this is larger transducer, and to run properly it needs to sit proud of the keel line of the kayak so that it can shoot the sonar either side without any hindrance. And with the Hobie Outback, same with the Hobie Pro Anglers, they have the Guardian Transducer Shield, and it has a retractable feature on it where we can attach this transducer, lower it below the keel line of the kayak, but when it comes to coming back into shore or before you land, it can be brought up within the hull of the kayak to protect it. Really cool, neat feature on the Hobie Outback and Pro Angler kayaks. So in this video, I'm going to run through how to fit one of these side scan transducers, the Lowrance Active Imaging 3-in-1 transducer, to the Hobie Outback. And whilst I'm showing you with a Lowrance side scan transducer, much the same goes for any of the side scan imaging transducers from other fish finder brands as well. Okay, to begin the install, I'm going to need to remove the cover plate, which is located under the seating area of the Outback. This cover plate, it's held on with a single screw. We can just undo that. And this cover plate gives access to the scupper hole which leads through to the Guardian Transducer Shield. It's just a cover plate. It is linked in with a piece of cord and a pulley, and this forms the part of the retractable system for the Guardian Transducer Shield, and I'll show you how to set that up towards the end of this video. But for now, we just need to pop it open so that we can pass wiring from the underside of the kayak to the top side of the kayak, where eventually it will run down through this three-way cable seal here to complete the installation. And yeah, that cover plate's held on with one small screw. I'm just going to pop that gently back into the threaded insert in the kayak, just so I don't lose that during the installation. And now we're going to flip the kayak over and gain access to the Guardian Transducer Shield. Okay, so I've now flipped over the kayak and we can now see the Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield here, this big black plate. It's held onto the kayak with 3 screws. So I'm just going to unscrew those. They're screwed into moulded brass inserts in the kayak. So once they're undone, we'll just put them to one side so we don't lose them. Now we can lift the transducer shield away, grab those bolts and keep those safe. Okay, and yeah, there we go, that's the Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield. You can see the underside there. You can see these 2 prongs which I used to fit the Lowrance HDI transducer on my previous video, and if you want to check that out, hit the link at the top now. But for this install, we're going to be installing the side scan transducer from Lowrance. And with the Hobie Outback, you'll get a little bag of small parts for wiring a fish finder into this kayak, and as part of that you'll get this adapter, and it's for use with side scan imaging transducers on the shield. And as standard, towards the top of the shield, you'll see a black plate here which is separate from the rest of the shield, held on with these 2 screws. We're going to need to undo this with a screwdriver. It's just a couple of self-tapping screws holding it on. To remove that plate, and we're going to be replacing it. It just pops out, pushes down, pops out of place. Now see the hole through there. and replacing it with the side scan adapter, and that just slides in from the bottom up into place, and we can screw that back in now, just like so. And that's the first step, and that basically creates a hole in the shield where we can pass the wiring from the side scan transducer, which is going to be fitted on the outside here, through and up to the top surface of the kayak, where it can go in through the cable seals into the hull. And it's a good idea now just to pass all that wiring through, just so it's ready. But pass it through the hole, then down through the hole in the kayak. I'm just going to take a moment now just to pull all the excess through and get that in position ready. Okay, so that's all the excess wiring pulled through, and now with all that excess out the way, we can sort of temporarily sit this in position and see how it's going to fit to this shield. See, I've just plopped it on top there with the wiring going down through that hole, and we're going to need to now bolt this transducer to the shield. And on the top surface of the transducer, you can see in there's some molded in threaded inserts. There's 6 of them in total, and we're going to need to now drill some holes that match up with those in the shield, and then bolt them through from the top side into the transducer to hold it in place. And as part of the fish finder, in a packet labelled transducer mounting kit, you get all the little screws, and there are some very small spring washers that will be used for fitting this. Now the tricky part is where to drill the holes, because at the minute the threaded inserts are on the top side of this transducer. I can't see where they match up on the plate to know where to drill. Now luckily the fish finder comes with a transom bracket, so you'd be using this if you were mounting it onto the back of a boat and bolting it to the transom. And on this plate there are some pre-drilled holes which line up with the holes on the transducer, and there's 12 holes in total, 6 inner and 6 outer. Now we need to use the 6 inner because they're the ones that line up with the bolt holes on this transducer, and we can now use this as a template to know exactly where to drill the holes on the transducer shield. Now I've done a little bit of trial and error and positioning to see where it sits best on this shield, and I've worked out that if we take the plate, use the curved end facing towards the back of the kayak, the flat end facing towards the bow of the kayak, and position it so that the flat end meets in line with the hole that runs through the shield. And by placing it there, the transducer ends up being fitted like perfectly in line with the end, pretty much in line with the end of the transducer shield, so that it can fully retract when you need to. I'll show you that shortly. But it's just a case of now lining up those holes and marking them in position. Now, having looked at this, we're only really going to be able to use 4 of the bolt holes to attach this transducer. The holes that are closest to the bow, they actually clash with the fitting of that side scan adapter plate. Now I could drill through there and bolt it, but I'd probably risk cracking the shield because it's right on the join. But I'm just going to run with 4 bolts in this transducer for now. I'm certain it will hold really securely, so let's see how we go. So it's a case of lining it up, centering it. Once you're happy with the position and it's centered, I'm just going to take a pencil and mark in those 4 holes. Yeah, that's great. So with those 4 holes now marked, I can take my drill. It's got a 4mm drill bit. That'll be plenty enough for these bolts. I'm just going to slowly drill through the shield. So that's those drilled now. Just check the bolts go through. Yeah, perfect, no problem. So now it's a case of assembling this. So we can turn it over, line up the bolt holes with the holes I've just drilled. Going to want to use one bolt and one spring washer for each hole. I'll just take some time now to screw those into place. Okay, so that's the last one, just been tightened up there. All nice and tight. That transducer is now fitted to the Guardian Shield, as you can see there. It's absolutely rock solid, just with those 4 bolts. There's no need to risk cracking the plate with drilling those extra 2, which would have sat right on the line here. So I'm not going to risk it, leave it as it is. That's rock solid. Really happy with how that is. So now it's just a case of all fitting this back to the kayak, but before we do that, we just need to sort of activate almost the retractable feature on the Guardian Shield. So I'm just going to run through and show you that part next. Okay, to set up the retractable feature on the Guardian Shield, we need to undo this inner plate from the outer frame, because at the moment it's locked. It won't retract, won't push down into the hull, and that will not protect this transducer, which is currently sitting well proud of the hull. As you can see, it stands a fair way off the plate there. So what we need to do is flip the shield over. There are 6 screws located around the edge of the shield which hold that inner section to the outer frame. So I just need to go through, undo those 6 to release it. We can pop those screws to one side. We won't be needing those anymore, so worth just keeping those safe in case you ever did need to put the kayak back to standard, or perhaps you decide against using sidescan and want to fit a different transducer within the shield. You'll need to put these screws back in to lock it back in position. We'll take all these out now, and that will now release it. And if I just flip it back over, I'll show you how that works. So if I now push down the transducer, you can see it disappears inside the hull. So on a bungee system, that's great. So when it's deployed, it will, if you did hit something, it will push out the way without damaging the transducer. But yeah, in its recessed position, the transducer sits within the lines, within the confine of the hull, prevents damage. But now we just need to tie that into the system, because there's a control handle within the footwell of the kayak that you pull to allow that to retract, and we've just got to set that up. Currently it's not attached to this. There's a loop of cord, you can see that there on the top side of the shield. To this we need to tie the cord that we had attached to that little cover plate on top with the pulley. I've just pulled that out there. It's usually tied around the pulley, you just have to undo it so it's running freely. And we just need to tie that to the shield and just get it as close as you can. Grab maybe 3 or 4 inches through and just tie a knot. I mean, I'm just going to tie a simple blood knot here. As long as it's a knot that's secure, attached to that cord, and just slide it so it's positioned nice and centrally. I'm not sure if you can see that there on the video, but it's sort of halfway along that cord. I've got that knot. That's nice and secure, it's not going to slip. And we can just pop the shield into place now, and we can test this before we go screwing anything and fixing it all down again. So I'm just going to reach into the footwell, grab the cord that I believe is on the left hand side when you're sat in the cockpit. It says transducer on it. I'm going to give it a pull, and hopefully this is now going to retract into the hull. Okay, so I'm putting it down now, and there we go. That's just recessed lovely, perfectly within the hull. It's working exactly how we need it to. To be honest, with that in that position now, we can actually screw the frame back to the kayak with those 3 bolts, those 3 screws we kept aside. Can now just tighten that back in with a screwdriver. Just be careful if you're using an electric screwdriver with this. Set it on a very low clutch or low torque setting, because you don't want to go threading, cross-threading the brass inserts in the kayak, because it will render them useless and you can't really replace them because they're moulded within the hull. So if you're using a hand screwdriver, you can just take it nice and easy, and if it feels like it's cross-threading, you obviously just back it out and start again. That now is fixed back within the kayak. As I said, those screws we can pop aside, don't need those anymore. Neither do we need that blank cover plate that was originally fitted to the transducer shield. So now we have the Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield fitted. If I just release that cord from the footwell now, the transducer cord, it should pop back out. Let's see how that goes. And there we go, it's raised out into position. So that's what you would do just after launching, when you know you're in water deep enough to not risk hitting anything on the transducer. You just release the transducer control cord in the footwell and your transducer pops down. Proud of the hull, so that the side scan can work unhindered and read either side of your kayak. And when it comes back into shallow water, or when you're coming into the beach again to land or to the slipway, you can just pull that cord, retract your transducer, and you know it's not going to get damaged when the kayak beaches or bottoms out. And there we go, that's how to fit a side scan transducer, in particular the Lowrance Active Imaging 3-in-1 transducer, to the Hobie Guardian Retractable Transducer Shield. Just to finish this install now, I've flipped the kayak back over. I just need to reattach that cover plate that has the pulley on for the retractable feature to the kayak, and I left that screw in the threaded insert here. I can just quickly unscrew that. Push the transducer wire to the front where the through hole wiring fitting is located, pop the cover back over and screw that down into place. Nice and neat and tidy. That now leaves the wiring just to pass through the hole through this fitting. And for full details on that, make sure you check out my previous video where I fully fitted one of these fish finders, the Elite FS, to the Hobie Outback, and I show in great detail how to wire in your fish finder through one of those through hole plug kits there. Okay guys, so that's how to fit the Lowrance Active Imaging 3-in-1 transducer to the Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield. And Hobie Guardian Transducer Shield, that is found on the Hobie Outback, this model here, as well as the newer Pro Angler models from Hobie. And it has a retractable feature, which is great for side imaging transducers. You can deploy them when you want to use a transducer and retract them into the hull when not using them, or when launching or landing, to keep them protected from damage. And all controlled by pulling the transducer toggle in the footwell, in the cockpit of the kayak. Really neat system. And whilst I've showed the setup of the Lowrance side imaging transducer in this video, pretty much the exact same process goes for any of the side imaging transducers from any of the main fish finder brands. And to see the rest of an install of the Lowrance Elite FS fish finder to the Hobie Outback, make sure you check out my previous video. There's a link at the top of the screen here, make sure you hit that. And I run through how to get this set up on the tracks, ram mounted to the H-track to the kayak here. Show you how to power it with a lithium battery and wire in all the power cable and transducer cable. So make sure you check that out if you want full details on how to fully rig one of these up to a Hobie kayak. So guys, hope you found the video helpful. If you did, make sure you hit like and hit subscribe on my channel. There'll be plenty more content coming, rigging kayaks up, and plenty more kayak fishing content as well. And if you've got any questions on the install, make sure you comment below and I'll do my best to answer. Okay guys, thanks for watching.